Hey, babe, I need you to do me something. My grandpappy and my mama's anniversary is coming up, and I need you to make the fish stew for the get-together. Here's the recipe. Now, it's a family secret, so please, please, please don't let anyone see it. Thanks, baby. Loves ya.
Okay, let's see here. This looks easy enough. 1 large stock pot, add olive oil, crushed garlic, onions, bay leaf, and stir it up. Cut up some baby carrots, and begin the meat preparation, which I assume is in the fridge. I've never seen meat like this before. Kinda looks like a butt. What an odd fish. Anyways, to tenderize the cutlets, make sure the skin and fat is well spanked to ensure the tenderness of the human meat. Cook every part of the body except the head, bones, and guts. Roast the sweet human ass in the oven at 350 degrees. Oh my effing God! But it's been a week off. We celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary on our normal recording day, so we took the day off. And well, I believe John's prepped another meaty story for us.
I'm excited to see what we're talking about today.
Yeah, meaty is actually a really good word for it.
Ooh, cannibal story.
Ooh, maybe. But before we get started, we do have quite a few Patreon members to shout out and thank for joining.
All right.
We've got Jennifer AC, aka Danny, not to be confused with my sister Danny. Isabel,
or my cousin Danny.
Yes. Isabel, Lee, Justin, and Jacqueline. Heyo.
Heyo.
Thanks, everyone.
Welcome, guys.
And let me just say, we're starting to get some consistent requests now for what they want us to take as their surprise shots. And there's some interesting requests and some that I'm really excited for.
No more car bombs?
No more car bombs. I don't think we could handle it. Although we do still have Guinness if we ever feel the need. The need
for speed.
That was rough. That was bad.
Well, the second attempt was much better.
Yeah, because we only did one.
Yes. The night that we got too drunk to put out the first Son of Sam was,
fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was a great time.
It was a good time.
And today's surprise shot is dedicated to Haley.
Well, Haley, this is for you. Surprise shots, surprise shots. We don't know what they are because they're a surprise.
Cheers, Haley.
Cheers.
Why isn't that as smooth as the last one that we had?
What brand is it?
Svedka.
That's Svedka?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They have the whipped cream vodka that's really good.
That's Pinnacle.
Oh, Pinnacle is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, whipped. That is good.
Because
that is extremely dangerous.
Svedka is the one with the robot, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
she's hot. It's hot. Its hardware is hot. I want to update her software. Put my firmware in her thumb drive.
Oh my God.
So for prom, we all know that I am a walking dumpster fire. I mean, that's not true, but so this is what you get on a normal day. And at the beginning of the school year, I think I've told you guys before, like at the beginning of the school year, I usually try and I do my makeup every day. And, every couple days I'll straighten my hair and wear it down. And then as the year progresses, as I get more and more burnt out, the effort is less. So I'll keep doing my makeup, but I'll wear my hair up more often. And now it's reached the point in the year, there's 3 weeks left, and I just don't even bother with anything. I just put my hair up, put some clothes on, and go to work.
That's right. Don't blame you.
I'm actually cutting my own hair now.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, and
you did good.
You did a good job. And I also cut my own hair last night.
I just do all the hair at once on my body. I'm a swimmer, so
you missed a spot then. Couple.
Oh, right. On my gooch. So if you're new here, my name is John. This is the Talk Murder to Me podcast. I put all my sources, photos, and videos on talkmurder.com. You definitely want to see the photos on this case. 100%. I Also wrote a blog post. Please share it. I am going back to all the older episodes on the blog. I've been doing that all week. You may have noticed. And I'm updating everything. And there are a lot of cases that we have done that have recent updates. Like, for instance, the Clur case.
Oh!
He's finally getting a court date for that.
Because he was deemed too unfit for trial, right?
I can't remember, but next month is his court date.
Huh.
Also, some of the other cases we've done, like the Uber murder, that guy is just now going to court.
Wow.
So stuff like that. So I'm trying to go back and kind of refresh everything. But you can find all that at talkmurder.com if you want. We are also recording this on YouTube, so you can go there and type in Talk Murder to Me. If you can't find that, you could just go to Google and type in this story, which I don't want to tell you what it is now because they don't know, and then type in the person's name and then Talk Murder to Me or whatever, and it should come up. So anyway, tonight we're actually going back to New York.
Okay.
Feel like we cannot get away from there.
Well, some people
a lot of people live there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very populated. Some people say it's the best city in the world. I would disagree with you, but
We're
Has your shirt very clearly? Actually, mine too. It's very faded, but it says Boston.
wicked smart.
So we're actually going to July 14th, 1924.
Ooh.
So, and about this case, this episode, I'm going to start out slow. And I know how you say that, and I usually do the other thing, but I'm serious this time. I'm going to start out slow, non-gruesome, and then at the very last moment, I'm going to really push it.
Is this you saying you're going to start with the most obscene thing we've ever
No,
heard?
I'm not going to start. I know I usually do that, but I'm not on this.
Okay.
We're going to actually start with an abduction, and I'm not going to talk about the murder at all. And then we're going to talk about another abduction. And then we're going to end with a letter that the killer wrote to the parents. And that's where we're going to end part one. Part two is going to go into some interesting facts about this guy, this killer tonight, including his love for writing letters. And he's got a lot of letters.
Interesting.
In fact, on our Patreon episode this week, we're going to be reading some of the letters tonight. So you guys will have a sneak preview of what's to come for next week's part two. But anyway, we're going to Charlton Woods area. We're going to talk about the abduction of Francis McDonald. And I'm going to show you a picture of him.
The boy was abducted. Boy Francis. Yeah. Okay.
That's my dad's middle name.
It's a male-female name, so.
Yeah, Francis with an I is usually male. Francis with an E is usually female.
That's right.
All right, so what was going on in 1924? This is July 14th. There were a couple big cases out there. Now, this whole case revolves around the abduction of children. Now, why in this time when most Americans are spending a lot of their time in the breadlines, would there be any abductions at all? Why? Because I'm going to
ransom money.
Because I'm going to tell you, abductions back then were extremely common. More than murders itself, they were people were abducting,
captured to go work in factories.
No, that's a good guess.
Ransom money.
So they were captured for ransom money. So they would.
Oh, Jen got it.
So a famous trial that was going on right now was the Lindbergh baby.
I was gonna guess the Lindbergh baby about the story.
The two celebrities. Celebrity couple, kind of like what you have now. Their baby goes missing. I haven't done the story completely, so I don't know all the facts, but their baby goes missing, and it was found I think it was 500 yards away from their property, and it was dead. But there was a ransom note and everything else, and that was really common during this time because they were rich and everyone else in the nation was pretty much poor, and so they would target rich families, and this happened a bunch, and they would steal the baby and then try to get ransom money for it.
So were these children abducted in this case for ransom money? Like, were they children of wealthy?
That's the thing. They were not.
Okay.
And that's the one thing police noticed at first. But anyway, we're going to get started with this. So this right here, who you're looking at, is Francis McDonald. This is the only photo we have of him. He's 8 years old. It's kind of a grainy photo. I'll put this on talkmurder.com, but he's just a normal kid. He looks like any other 8-year-old that was out there. He's actually the son of a Staten Island police officer. Whoever abducted this kid either didn't know he was the son of a police officer or was just really brazen and didn't care. It was July 14th, 1924, and it was pretty hot out, even being in New York. He was playing outside on the porch of his home, and he was playing by himself. His mother comes out, and she sits with him a while, and around 2 p.m., she's actually nursing her youngest child, and there was a man that walked by her house with her 8-year-old son, Francis, playing on the porch. And she says, quote, she sees a strange figure making his way down the middle of the street. It was an elderly man. He was shabby, but he had a suit on. He was dressed decently. It wasn't a nice suit, but it looked like he was well kempt, well taken care of his suit. He would clean his suit and stuff like that.
Like he could afford a suit, number one.
Yeah, exactly. And he was walking down the middle of the street there. He had gray hair and a gray mustache. So he was an older man.
Okay.
She noticed it as being peculiar, but she didn't think anything of it until later that day. Later, around 3 p.m., little Francis goes to the little courtyard area. He's got a couple friends down there, and they're playing ball. Kick the can, kick the ball, whatever. And this is 8-year-old, 10-year-olds, no older than that. Now, Francis's mother wasn't watching her son at this particular moment. She has a young child, and he is in sight distance, but she isn't actively watching him. Okay, so he's playing, and there's just a bunch of kids out there. This same old man comes up to the children and coaxes one of them over. Hey, come here, I got some candy. And it was actually raisins, what they think he was coaxing them with.
Well,
Only
that would
you
be
would
bait
want
for
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be something. That would be a profiler
There
that
you
uses
go.
raisins.
Raisinets. That's John's favorite candy.
When the other, so Francis,
I like raisinets.
Oh,
It's not my
gross.
favorite, but I like them.
Nasty.
Francis goes over there, and then the boys continue playing. When they turn back around, Francis and the old man completely gone. Now we're talking about someone who is 60 years old here. This is an old man.
I'm almost reminiscent of Pinocchio when he gets taken to that island of misbehaving boys and they turn into donkeys.
That movie scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I think I only watched it maybe twice in my life. It really scared me.
It was scary.
This is from the book we're reading tonight, and I'll get to what it is in a second.
His hands made a constant nervous motion, clenching and unclenching, and he seemed to be mumbling to himself. As he passed down the street, the 2 German shepherds belonging to the McDonald's next-door neighbor set up a howl. The gray-haired man turned to the woman on the porch, tipped his hat, and then vanished down the road. Weird.
Yeah.
So this is the same man that took Francis, which is weird because he's the type of... seems like the type of nice old man, who's going to take a kid,
Well, he probably wanted to make himself seem like the nice old man so that the families would be familiar with him while he's walking down the street and be like, oh, I see him walking down the street all the time. He's harmless. Or the kids see him and begin to trust
They're
him.
familiar.
The last person to actually see Francis was a neighbor, and this was 4:30 p.m. This neighbor, from his account to the police, because the boy's gone now, forever. Okay, the guy came, they were playing, the guy calls him over, the old man, hey, come over here. You want some raisins? Sure. They turn around, they're both completely gone. And the last person to see the boy alive, Francis alive, was a neighbor, and this was 4:30 p.m. They were actually walking into the woods, and a lot of the reports will say about this guy, because he is a chronic abductor.
Okay.
This is not his first time.
So, like, they know that he abducts kids? Or
there are hundreds of cases from how he does this. From him. He does this all the time. Hundreds, yeah.
And he's not behind bars because
he's dead. It's 1924.
No. Like, they didn't catch him. He was doing this hundreds of times.
Yeah, I'm not talking about now. Duh.
We realize he is dead, but yeah, he was never caught.
What the hell? You think I'm just going to get to the end right now? What the fuck?
No, I thought you meant like they knew that he was doing this.
So the last person to see the boy and the old man was a neighbor. It was 4:30. They actually see the man, and a lot of newspapers would use terminology like, and then the old man melted into the forest.
Oh.
He kind of just was here, and then he kind of just blended in, and he's gone forever. No one ever sees him again. Very, very creepy. And this went on for several years.
Lots of children vanishing.
Over 6 years of this, who we're talking about tonight. This guy, the Boogeyman.
Oh, that's his nickname?
That's one of his nicknames.
Was it obvious that it was this guy to people?
No, it was not. Not until the last minute.
Okay.
But everyone knew about the old man. They would call him the Gray Man. And some of the newspapers, if you read it, there were sightings of the Gray Man. It was almost like a
Slender Man
type of fear that was going on.
Spooky.
It was very spooky to read some of these papers, because it was like, here's your kid, and then all of a sudden he just melts into the forest and he's gone. Now, usually the kids will be found. Well, some of the kids were found, but we'll get to that. Anyway, moving on. The last person to see him at 4:30, like I said, they walked into the woods. The body was actually found later by a group of Boy Scouts, and they were a little older than Francis, but this is how they came upon the body.
It had been hastily concealed under a pile of branches and leaves. The clothes below Francis's waist, stockings and shoes, underpants, khaki knickerbockers, had been violently ripped from his body. He had been, as newspapers would put it, atrociously assaulted, then strangled with his suspenders, which were twisted so tightly around his neck they seemed embedded in the flesh.
No, poor kid.
Embedded in the flesh. Now, this was one of his earliest abductions.
So you mean it gets progressively worse?
The depravity here is telling.
Because it's mild.
It's very mild compared to what you're about to see when we go 6 years down the road. It's like when you take the filter off. I guess that's a social media thing. I don't know. But yeah, something like that. Anyway, the man actually comes back, and this is before Miss McDonald knew that her son had his trousers twisted so tightly they were embedded in his flesh. This is what she witnesses.
He came shuffling down the street, she told reporters, mumbling to himself, making queer motions with his hands. I'll never forget those hands. I shuddered when I looked at them. I shudder every time I think of them, how they opened and shut, opened and shut, opened and shut. I saw him look toward Francis and the others. I saw his thick gray hair, his drooping gray mustache. Everything about him seemed faded and gray. I saw my neighbor's 2 police dogs spring at him, and I saw Philip, the hired man, called them off. The Gray Man turned to me, tipped his cap, and then he went away.
So the Boy Scouts found the boy's body. Now, there was another witness, a 17-year-old, around the same area that this happened right before. Her name was Jenny Carlson, so this is a female. She had an experience with a, quote, unkempt gray hair man with a thick growth of beard, about 5 feet 6 inches tall, and wearing blue trousers, a soiled white shirt, and no coat, end quote. That's the exact description that Miss McDonald gave police. Now remember, her husband is also a Staten Island police officer.
Right. Do you guys remember when we were trying to remember the 5th borough of New York and we couldn't?
Was it Staten Island?
I don't know, but there was a Saturday Night Live sketch like 2 weeks ago that they were trying to remember all 5 boroughs and they couldn't remember the 5th one, and I just had to tell you.
That's funny.
Now
We're on trend.
Now, this 17-year-old recalls the man was eating something out of both of his hands and, quote, with his face down and his body crunched over like an animal, end quote.
Ooh.
So what they're describing here,
Uncle Fatty,
when you see the mother talk about how she'll never forget being shuddered by his appearance where he's clenching his hands back and forth, if you actually look at his face, and this will be corroborated later because he does get caught, but his face is flush, his eyes are dilated, he's really moving his hands. They call that bloodlust. At that point, if you see someone like that, they have an urge, an uncontrollable urge to murder and to whatever they want to do, sexually or whatever, to get the bloodlust. That is what that is. And that's what she was talking about when he was like clenching his hands. He's like, that's all he could think about. You know, it's like 100% his complete reality right now is thinking about killing this boy. Because why else would you know? I mean, people are watching you. Why would you act so strange like that? It's because you don't know you're doing it because you're just so focused on killing. So that's what that bloodlust was. Now, this 17-year-old, she actually walks past this man. Now, this is before he takes the boy. She looks back, you know, instinctively because she got a creepy feeling. Because at first, it's just an old man. Hey,
right.
Pops, what you doing? You know, isn't it nap time? Then she walks by and she gets this really eerie feeling that just like makes her goosebumps and kind of tingle inside. She looks back and she sees this man fully sprinting at her.
Oh, no.
This is a 60-year-old man fully running.
Oh, hell no.
Straight towards her. And she is on a dirt road where there's no houses for 100, 200 yards away. She has two choices right now. Well, one choice, basically, to get the fuck out or succumb to whatever this guy is wanting to do.
Well, luckily, she should hopefully be able to outrun him.
She did, but narrowly outran him. When the I know you're talking about profiles earlier, how they're inaccurate. I know they didn't have FBI profiles back then, but all the newspapers, all the police, they were looking for, in some of these cases, they didn't know it was the gray man doing it, right? But they didn't know who it was. They didn't have witnesses. They were looking for someone 20, 25 years old.
Oh, wow.
Because some of the acts of complete violence, you wouldn't expect a 60-year-old man plus doing this stuff.
To be able to do
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And to like fully sprint at a 17-year-old and almost catch her. Mm-mm. She disappeared in the woods, and she was lucky because she would have been killed too. So he is targeting everybody.
Anyone he can get his hands on.
Yeah. She was running. He was right behind her. She looks back, and then she sees the tip of his hat because he's wearing a bowler hat, and I'm going to show you what he looks like. But the tip of his hat disappears back into the forest. Just like he is just so used to the forest. It's just like melts right back in there. I saw that word a lot. There was a huge public outrage with this, obviously. After this happened, especially the police officer's son, and they find his body. After this, and there's witnesses of the old man, and no one knows who he is because he's not even from this area. And none of the other murders are in the same area. They're all over the place.
Okay.
So obviously he has some occupation that allows him to travel. After this was a public outrage, the locals of Staten Island believed that there was a quote, cult of degenerates that would leave the breadlines of the time and satisfy their lust as demented perverts with deviant behaviors. I'm pulling all this from newspapers. All right. Now, there was the woods, the Charlton Woods, where the boy was strangled with his own trousers. there was a place they believed, which was fictional, but in their minds, this is hysteria talking.
Right.
You know, this happens when someone young dies and you just want a conclusion so bad, you want resolution. The family is, you don't believe this would happen a ransom's one thing. Yeah, okay, give me the money. Here's your kid back. You know, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Because that's what it usually was. You're not going to take someone's ransom and then kill the kid. Like, that's not how it works. You're going to give the kid back. And that's how it usually worked. Mm-hmm. But anyway, this kid was completely mutilated beyond anything that they could imagine. They started to believe that there was a, quote, rattlesnake's nest, end quote, in the woods, which was basically a spot, a clubhouse of deviants and child molesters, all elderly child molesters. And these perverts participated in, quote, wild orgies of degeneracy.
Like,
this is the hysteria that's going on.
Let me just
one
say,
dude
though,
doing this, and he's not living in the woods.
Interesting.
Like no child abuser is like, ooh. You know what I mean? They're all ew. But like, especially older ones are just like, ew. Like,
it adds to the creep factor.
it does. Well, yeah, and well, now when you think about it, I don't know what's worse: a younger one who like knows that they're not, or an older one. Ew, they're all gross. No one. Ew, gross.
Well, my goal with this episode, and I don't even have to try, is to make you never look at your grandpa the same way again.
Stop it.
Well, both of my grandpas are dead.
Same.
So going back to the episode, I want to bring this up because this is interesting about this case. So what you know so far, you know he's an abductor of children.
An old
man abductor of children.
Gross.
What fairy tale story does
Rumpelstiltskin.
No. Well, maybe. I don't know that story. But the one I read for this case.
Pied Piper.
That's
also not
good
what John
one.
was thinking,
but
I don't know.
That was yeah. So I was thinking more of like Red Riding Hood.
Oh, the Big Bad Wolf?
Okay, because this guy, he is well dressed. Not only that, he's an old man. Like, what old man is going to lure kids away? Like, old men back then.
I feel like this is something that our parents warned us about when we were kids.
Not about
Pied
old
Piper.
men, not about a 60-year-old man.
Well, yeah, anyone. Yes. Anyone. Don't take candy from strangers.
As you're about to see, this guy will come into your home, introduce himself,
Jazzman.
and then take away your kid.
Oh, boy.
So I'm going to...
Santa.
All right. Okay, so we talked about the public outrage.
I'm sorry. I was laughing at Naquise's laugh.
Oh, man.
So the autopsy on the 8-year-old, they found raisins in his stomach. That's when police thought that he may have been lured by raisins. Because when they talked to the mother... we don't have raisins. I don't know if they can afford them. This reminds me of Jack the Ripper, and I have not done that story, but apparently there were raisins found in the bellies of all the women.
Really?
Oh, not raisins, grapes. Excuse me. And grapes were a delicacy back then.
Jack the Ripper was a woman.
Initially, the body of the child was so brutalized that they actually would discredit both witnesses at first. The mother... and the neighbor, they discredited both of them in the news because the body was so badly mutilated that there was no way. This dude the one you described was 60 plus years old. What the hell? Like, no, that didn't happen. We're looking for a young guy. So they were automatically not believing this could ever happen. It was just in shock. They actually tracked down the suspect. Or what they thought was a suspect. It was a hermit, a drifter from town to town. He had been living in those woods, not far from where the murder took place. He was living in this abandoned cabin. His name was John Iskowski. Have you ever heard of him? No. Yeah, you probably wouldn't, because when the townsfolk who were taking vigilante justice against the rattlesnake's nest in the woods, the deviant perverts of the men that have orgies.
But was that even a real thing?
No, it wasn't. This was hysteria. But what was a real thing was a town folk getting together and basically taking a bunch of shotguns, rifles,
Torches
walking
and
into the
pitchforks.
woods. And the first person they found was this drifter, John Eskowski. And he's not from there.
He was not involved in this.
But they surrounded him, and he actually burrowed himself under a big log. They surrounded him, started shooting at him. He actually shot back a few times. He had a revolver. They got closer. He took that revolver and shot himself right in the head.
Wow.
Suicide right there. Later, it turns out his wife recently left him 3 weeks prior to this. At the time of this murder, the Francis murder, he was in Pennsylvania. It wasn't him. Now, he did kill himself. I'm not saying that the townsfolk would have killed him, but he killed himself because they were surrounding him and he thought he was about to die. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just living in the woods. That's how bad it was.
Yikes.
Yeah, exactly. Because they had bloodhounds and everything else. They're barking at you. They got you circled. They're coming in closer. You're just like, fuck it. You know?
Wow.
I don't think I would have the balls to pull the trigger.
The mother says, quote, help us catch the monster who murdered our little boy. Help us find the gray man, end quote. And that's the first time now the newspapers, the gray man. And it's all the silhouette of this old man wearing a bowler hat, kind of like the Thomas Crown affair where he's wearing that bowler hat. So we're going to stop for that story. We'll come back to it later. I'm going to tell you exactly what he did in the next episode to this boy in vivid, graphic, Pee Wee Gaskin style testimony.
Personal?
From him, his own words.
Oh, boy.
Because not only did he have a tell-all once he got caught, but before that, he would love to write the parents who had been looking for this man. Hey, guess what?
What he
This
did
is
to them?
what I did to your child. I'm teasing this episode, and I'm sorry, but the second episode is, you will not believe.
All right, we're going to need to do a Saturday Night recording for part 2.
All right, so moving on. Who you're looking at now, this is actually 6 years later. So we're going to get into all the in-betweens here in a little bit, but I kind of wanted to go to the first one, the abduction. You saw how it went. He blatantly walks past the mother, the house, he tips his hat.
And obviously the mother realized who he was in hindsight.
The mother had such a bad feeling. Oh, yeah.
It was after he gets caught where he's like, oh my God, I knew that guy.
No, she knew that this guy did it. Because she got the feeling. And plus a 17-year-old came out and was like, this creepy old man, you know.
You always got to stick to your intuition. If you have a bad feeling about someone, it's probably right.
So what kind of guy are you think we're going to talk about who, before he mutilates your child, he tips his hat to you? Good day, ma'am. Dude, that guy has no fucking soul. I can promise you that. Anyway.
Deranged.
That's funny you said that. So the book we're reading, I got to mention that.
I swear I did not know that.
But yeah, so the book we're reading tonight is called Deranged by Harold Schechter. Harold Schechter is by far my favorite true crime author. I used his research for a few. The most notable was the Ed Gein story. I don't want to tell you who the guy is yet, but he actually, Harold Schechter, in the very back of the book, he talks about this. He wrote to Robert Bloch, which is the guy that created the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which got the story, his inspiration from Ed Gein.
Right.
And so Harold Schechter, the true crime author, writes to him, is like, why is so many people interested in this? Like, what is it that makes us so interested in Ed Gein? And I'm not going to tell you who the killer is because y'all don't know yet. But Robert Bloch writes back to him and says, it's because they don't know, or they're ignorant of the facts or the story itself of who we're talking about tonight. Because if they knew this guy, which they don't, no one knows who this guy is, because at the time you got the Lindbergh baby, you got the Depression, you got the war starting up. Like, this got clouded in so much shit, but it's so just gruesome and deviant. It's just, Anyway, all right, so the photo you're looking at now, and I'll put this on talkmore.com, is of another family. This is 6 years down the road, completely unrelated. They've never even heard of the case we just talked about. Completely unrelated. This is the Budd family, B-U-D-D. Edward Budd is the dapper young man there. This is a photo that's about 10 years old, but we're actually going to Friday, May 25th, 1928. At this point in his life, he is 18 years old.
Okay.
And he takes a cabbie down to the local news telegraph station. I don't know how that works because we just twit it
right
now.
Wait, did you say Friday, May 28th?
Yeah.
That was this year,
no,
too.
I said Friday, May 25th, 1928.
Oh, sorry.
So 1928, this is 6 years later. And they have no idea, have never heard of the Francis case. Edward Budd, 18 years old, takes a cabbie down to the telegraph station and puts an ad in the New York World. It's a newspaper. And that ad is a classified section ad. And it says, quote, young man, 18, wishes position in country. Edward Budd, which is his name, 406 West 15th Street.
That is address?
Yeah. Back then, they don't have phones. House phones are a luxury item. You don't have house phones. You don't even have...
So but West 15th Street, that's in Manhattan. That's nice.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. It is in Manhattan, yeah. And I did look at it now. It looks like a dilapidated apartment building. We can see it now. It's right by the whatever waterway that is right there.
Hudson River?
Hudson River, I think, yeah.
So was he advertising himself available for work? Is that what that was?
Yeah, exactly. And they don't have a house phone. Also, in this time, this was before air conditioner. Half of them didn't even have electricity.
That's interesting that he would put an ad in the paper for that, especially considering the times.
What do you mean?
That was. Like, nobody's working at that point in time.
Well, but that's why he put an ad out, so that if anyone could see it, and maybe other people weren't putting ads out.
I mean, he's a strapping 18-year-old. He's got muscle. So it'd be a farmer or somebody that needs help, a farmhand. That's what he was hoping for, to spend. And a lot of these kids would do this. They would go to a farm during the week, work $15 a day or whatever. I mean, that is a lot. Probably less, 10
even less.
Or even less than that a day. They get fed and all this stuff. Then on the weekend they come back, and that money helps their parents. The Budd family is actually impoverished compared to the other family we just talked about. I mean, you have a police officer. I know they don't make a ton, but this family here is below the poverty line. They are really poor, but they're a loving family, but they're just the bottom of the bottom type of, as far as the social economic status goes. They're pretty low. Okay, so that's another thing. The cops are like, well, what the fuck? Obviously, this isn't a ransom, because if it was, they can't freaking pay it anyway, Edward's father, Albert, was a porter for the Equitable Life Assurance Company. It was a pretty low-paying job. And the wife, Delia, was just a housewife. They have 4 children together, including a sweet-tempered, and this is from the paper, a sweet-tempered 10-year-old named Gracie Budd. Their address, as in the classified ad he put out, was 406 West 15th Street. It's still there. I looked it up. On May 28th, so a few days later, he put the ad out May 25th. May 28th, 1928, he gets a knock at the door. A man comes in, Frank Howard. He's an older man, pretty well dressed. He's not wearing a $1,000 suit, but the suit he's got on is pretty decent, and it's well kempt, if this reminds you of anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Was the shirt stained?
No, it was, upon closer inspection, the family would later recall that the shoes weren't as shiny or whatever. But at this point, if you're wearing black shiny shoes anyway, you're a well-to-do man, and if your pants aren't ripped, you're well-to-do. And plus, he is going into a home that has very low lighting. You know what I'm saying? Like if they have electricity, they don't keep it on because it's so expensive. So they can barely see kind of what he looks like, but they do realize he's an old man, and he talks, his vernacular and the way he talks, his mannerisms are of wealth.
Okay.
And this is something he has been practicing since the first time, which that's the first time he claims was the McDonald, the one we just talked about. Since then, he had 6 years of doing this to perfect the technique. And now he presents himself as Frank Howard, a successful farmer.
Not his real name.
No, not his real name at all. Y'all know who we're talking about?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you now who it is. Frank Howard. Who Frank Howard is. I'll show you a picture. Does he look familiar?
Yes.
But you see, all right, this is good that we're showing you the picture now. You see kind of his get up.
Yeah, I will say I did like.
He's got the mustache that's trimmed.
The suspense that we did for the Ted Bundy case, which I really liked, because I remember you being like, "Hey, hi, my name's Ted," and I'd be like, "Oh, that was so cool. That was a good intro." Yeah. So I like that we're doing this.
So this is what he looked like when he was walking in. I mean, he's not an old man. This is actually younger. This is like photo. 40 years old. If I show you the older photo, you'll probably know who it is. Do you want to see the older photo?
Yes.
Okay. This is him when he got arrested. Y'all don't know who that is? Shit. All right, moving on. Well, if y'all can't guess it, I'm not going to tell you.
No!
Sucks to suck for us.
He presents himself, and you just saw his photo. And that's how he looks. He's older now. But you saw the beard or the mustache. It's not just some scraggly mustache like everyone else had in the Depression. It's at least kempt.
Yeah.
It's trimmed.
Yeah.
And he walks upright. He's got the bowler hat. It's not the $1,000 bowler hat, but it's the other guy doesn't even have a hat.
He looked professional.
Exactly. So that's who he's presenting himself out as.
His mustache, I did that this morning when I cut my hair.
You did your mustache?
Yeah.
Did you wax it?
It was wet already because I washed my hair and then cut it.
Plus there is
Last night I cut it dry, and then tonight I cut it wet.
Plus there is a psychological aspect to this. And I don't know the terminology, but I've delved down this road once before. If it's the same psychology as if you get stopped by a cop, you automatically give that person an air of respect that it's just automatic as an authority. So if let's say Mark Cuban or somebody walks in the door, we're automatically, subconsciously, we're going to give more respect almost, you know what I'm saying? It's a very animalistic type of thing. Because he is successful and at a level that we're not, we're going to give him some respect. Does that make sense? So what he says is going to be interpreted more as the truth, even though if it's not. Does that make sense or not?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like it's an authority type of thing.
Like you wouldn't expect someone of high status to be dishonest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same with this guy. He's a porter, right, at the insurance company. He's going to talk differently to his boss,
right?
You know, just because he's at a higher status type of thing. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that is happening here. He walks in the house. He says, because Miss Bud comes up, Delia, you know, hey, can I help you? Yeah, I'm looking for Edward. And he's talking very, very professional. I'm looking for Edward. So come on in. I saw his ad in the paper, and I am a successful farmer with farmland in Farmingdale, Long Island, and a lot of farmland I have. I am married with 6 children. He says he's a proud father. And in fact, this is a little nuances to make it really believable. I have 6 children, and in fact, one of those children is now a cadet at a West Point. So you see those little nuances he puts in there? Uh-huh. Yeah, to just like further make his story like concrete. He's doing that.
I mean, even I was just like, ooh, West Point.
Exactly. So there you go. He also has 300 chickens, a half a dozen milk cows, and he even employs a Swedish cook So he's like Swedish cook. So the guy who is a poor.
Sorry, I just thought of the Muppets.
Oh my god, I was thinking that too.
What?
Yes. Yes. Oh my god, that's exactly where my head went to. Like his image popped into my head as soon as he said Swedish cook.
I'm sorry.
Yes. I love that we thought the same thing.
So even if he was like, I got a private chef, okay, but now this is a Swedish chef, you know?
I just keep on thinking of like that chef cooking like Swedish meatballs.
Chasing the chickens around, and then Gonzo tries to save the chickens.
So this man is sitting on the couch and giving the story out, and everyone's listening intently because they've never seen a rich man up close in their house talking to them. They've never seen someone of such wealth coming into their house, right?
Right.
So they're sitting, listening intently, and he talks about how his wife, lovely wife, but when I bought the farmland, she just couldn't do it after a year. She could not get used to the farm, so she ended up leaving.
Oh.
And he is married. He actually has 6 wives. He's a bigamist.
Mormon.
Or no, he's not a Mormon. He's just a
Polygamist.
Bigamist. Where you get married but don't get divorced.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's not polygamy. Polygamy is where you marry multiple partners.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
No, bigamy is when you marry.
Oh, and they don't know each other. But
then you just get remarried again and again and again without getting divorced.
Got it.
It's like in Chicago.
That's bigamy. So he was a bigamist.
Not only was he married,
he had
6 wives.
He had about 6 wives.
One of those Mormons, you know?
All right.
Got it.
So he said that he needed a strong boy to come down to Long Island just for the week. And every week he's going to pay him $15 a day and give him private room and board. But he needs a strong 18-year-old, just like your son here.
I do find it interesting that he's going after not just children, but older people. Like, I mean, I know that 18 is still a young person, but an 18-year-old male should be able to overpower a 60-something-year-old.
Not if he's jacked, and not if he has money. And
you saw him. Does he look jacked?
I'm just saying, like, I would be like afraid if I were thinking, if I'm a predator and who is my prey, it would be someone who is weak and defenseless, and an 18-year-old strapping man who they're going to hire to work on the farm is probably not one that I would want to.
Well, that sounds like someone. That sounds like what someone would say who has never experienced bloodlust.
Well, that's correct, I guess.
I can personally attest to.
I don't know where we're going with this.
All right. So anyway, he says he needs a strong boy, and in fact, Edward's friend, his name was Willie Corman, another 18-year-old boy, also just as jacked as
But
Jen
you see
said.
where I'm going with this.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Like, they should be able to
just hold on a second.
him.
Hold on. Willie Corman was also there, and Edward's like, I would love to come work at the farm. Hey, is there any way you could, take my buddy too? So now he's got 2 boys, 2 18-year-old boys to come work at his imaginary farm, which does not exist.
Frothing at the mouth, probably, but...
He said to Edward, after, the polite goodbye and all the stuff, they made a plan. He was going to come on Saturday, June 2nd. And he was going to pick up both the boys, bring them to the farm for a week, and then take them back, bring them back and forth. That's the plan. So that day came up, June 2nd, and he's nowhere to be found. They get a Western Union telegram sent to them, and this is the exact Western Union right here. And I'll put this photo on talkmurder.com. These are really hard to find photos. The Western Union, and I didn't know this, but if a Western Union guy comes to your house back in the 20s, he would just stand there until you give him, it's like a dime or something for the correspondence. You have to pay him for it, kind of like a collect call.
Telegram.
So they pay.
Candygram.
They give him
shark.
They give him the 10 cents or whatever, and it says, quote, been over in New Jersey, call in morning, end quote. And that's what you're seeing right there. You can see it says been over in Jersey, call in morning. Signed Frank Howard, 22nd. That's the exact telegram. So they're kind of bummed, but they're like, all right, whatever. The next morning, there's no call that comes in. And they're just like, oh man, well, this must be just some bullshit. At 10:30 a.m., there's a knock on the door. It's him, Frank Howard, and he's got some goodies with him. He's got a box of berries and a pail full of cheese. Now, they don't know this, but I mean, the Budd family is in abject poverty. So
This is luxury.
is luxury.
Cheese and berries, that's luxury to me today.
Same.
However, they don't know this, and will demonstrate how poor they were. Just right outside of their apartment building, vendors are selling this stuff, but they can't ever afford to buy it. So the mother, she, like, her eyes just go wide. It's like, whoa. And then he comes in and they're like, wow, these are so good. Did these come from your farm? And they didn't, because he just bought them on the street corner. But he's like, yeah, these, and this is the exact quote he says. He says, quote, "You'll never taste creamier pot cheese than that, I can guarantee it, nor sweeter strawberries," end quote. So he just bought these a minute ago from some street vendor. But they don't know none the wiser, right? In fact, that is one of the reasons that he gets caught, because the price tag on the bottom, it matches the handwriting of one of the vendors down below who identified him
As a customer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just have to say, like, if you ever see me with, like, berries and I say they're from my garden, you know that I'm lying, because I can't fucking keep a plant, number one.
Well, it's like whenever anyone, like, my mom's loves to use the line, "Oh, did you make this?" And my mom will usually respond, "I could have."
I made the money to go buy it.
I could have made it, but I bought it.
My mom used to, what did she used to do at, like, the church things? Someone had a meal and she bought, like, a rotisserie chicken and, like, put vegetables around it and brought it to some party or something like that. Like,
I love it.
Oh, Jackie.
All right.
I've done that once before. Not rotisserie chicken, but made it look like I've done that with hummus in particular. That's an easy one to, like, make it seem like you made it.
Well, you can cut up the vegetables and put that around.
Yes, but, like, adding, take it out of the jar, add some fresh olive oil, salt, and pepper on top, and it really brings the hummus to life. Mm-hmm. But you would think it's homemade.
I'll remember that when I have my housewarming party and you bring hummus.
Mm-hmm.
The two boys weren't at the home at the time. They were wherever, downstairs playing or whatever. So, and Albert, the father, Albert Budd, does notice this is odd, but at the time he's just like, just eccentricities of this old man. But the old man comes in and is like, I am so apologetic about the business I had to take care of in New Jersey. I trust that your son received my telegram. And Albert's like, yeah, we got it. It's right there on the mantle. So Frank Howard, the old man, walks over there and just grabs it, just kind of nonchalantly grabs it and puts it in his pocket.
Even though it was from him?
Later, it makes sense why he did that. He's trying to hide the evidence, that he did that. However, we have it right here, and this is the Western Union. They actually got this one from Western Union. So it's like one of those pads where you write on it and the bottom.
Oh, like the carbon copy?
Yeah, or whatever. It's carbon like one copy, of those.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like we have the receipt.
That's pretty incredible.
But he still did. And I want to say the detective, this is the detective, his name is King, Detective King. On this case you're about to hear, this is probably the most proficient detective I have ever seen. He is the main reason this guy is caught. And if it wasn't for this detective and his cunningness, because he did some really cool stuff, this guy would never get caught, ever. I'm telling you, even stuff like the little price tag, he knows to go and check the vendors, stuff like that. Like most people wouldn't even think about that, Anyway, I'll get to him probably in the next episode. Anyway, they're sitting at the table. They're eating the cheese and the berries. Edward's there. He's finally there with his friend Willie. They're getting ready to go. They're all gonna get in the car here and go down to the farm. Then the 10-year-old, remember the sweet-mannered child, the rose of the family, The one I'll show you right now. This is Gracie Bud. She's 10 years old.
I've heard that name before.
Or Grace Bud, but they call her Gracie. If you want to describe her, she is beautiful. In fact, when I did this story and then I looked at her picture, that's when it broke my heart. Because if you look at her, like the eyes and everything, I mean, well, you're about to see. But
She looks like she could be a movie star.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And she is...
But, like, pretty not...
She's tomboyish, and she's actually anemic because the family can't afford the nutrients and stuff like that. So basically all of them are anemic. And basically she's white, like real white.
Oh my gosh, I have that problem too.
Pale.
Gracie Bud walks in, and the mother is like, come here, Gracie. Say hello to this nice older gentleman here. And his eyes, Frank Howard's eyes, were transfixed on her.
So he was this
completely
abductor was not necessarily focused only on males. It was an anything.
Yeah, I remember the 17-year-old girl. Yeah, anything. I mean, he is. We'll get to his MO, but
he just
I
likes
just wanted
kids.
to clarify.
At this point, he is transfixed on Gracie.
Almost like he wants to take the youth of the children that he abducts.
The most beautiful child he's ever seen. Now, he's an old man.
She's not necessarily a child, right? How old is she?
She's probably 14, right?
She's 10.
Oh.
She's 10 years old.
In that picture?
Well, probably like 9.
Oh, she looks a lot older.
Yeah, I'd say like 14,
That's
15.
called the depression.
I was thinking like 16.
That's called being poor as fuck.
Well, she has a nice necklace and a fur on.
Those are fake beads.
It's a painting, isn't it? It's a drawing.
That's her. That's her. She's 10 years old. I'm not lying. She's 10.
Okay, you don't have to tell us.
No, I wouldn't. I did not guess that at all, actually.
The 10-year-old Gracie walks in, and he is transfixed. And he's an old man, so he's like, come over here, sweetie, tell me about your friends. You know how old men do. Come over here, sweetie, tell me.
I just had a vision of him being like, come sit on my lap.
It's almost like it's almost like Herbert the pervert from Family Guy.
Yes.
Come on over. How's he doing? Come on over here.
Would you like some popsicles?
Would you like some popsicles? So he's like, come on over here, sit on my lap.
Oh,
right
God.
here, he's patting his knee. Sit on my lap. Tell Grandpa about your day at school, and he's bouncing her on
no,
his
he's not.
Yes, he is.
Not
he is.
I thought you were just. I thought I was kidding when I said the whole sit on my lap thing.
He is bouncing her and stroking her because he's an old man. No one's going to expect anything. He's just an old man. Okay.
Yeah, but like he knows what he's doing.
Speaking in a soft, weeding voice, he told her how slender and pretty she was. He asked her questions about her friends, her favorite pastimes, or school. As he talked, he reached up a hand, mottled with liver spots but surprisingly powerful looking, a laborer's hand, and began to stroke her hair.
So he is bouncing little Gracie on his knee like this, Jen. Hey, you're so pretty. I love your blonde locks. And he reaches into his pocket, pretty deep in his pocket.
Oh, God.
And he pulls out a wad of bills.
You are so freaking bad.
And he puts it on the table and he says, well, go ahead and count that. And it was $92, which is a lot.
Yeah,
whoa,
especially
that's
back
a lot
then.
back then.
So and
That's like put under your mattress money.
well,
Yeah.
so they're like, wow, that's just in his pocket. And then he, gives her like a quarter or whatever for her trouble of counting and everything. And he's just being a
Not
grandpa.
for her trouble of sitting on his lap.
You're so cute. I bet you're just a heartbreaker. All this stuff.
At 10?
Bouncing on his lap. Gracie kept giving her mom kind of like a what the fuck is going on look. And the mom just so,
He's probably
transfixed.
like, you get that money, girl.
Yeah. Like she probably thinks he's harmless because he's an old man.
There you go. That's the Red Riding Hood, right? The sheep in wolf's clothing?
Yep.
Well, I mean, no.
Or the wolf in sheep's clothing?
No, Red Riding Hood was the wolf that was in Grandma's clothing in Grandma's bed.
I know, but you thought it was Grandma. But it's a wolf. This, you thought it's an old man, but it's really a fucking sexual psychopath.
But like once Red Riding Hood realized that it was the wolf, like she realized it was the wolf.
All right.
Nobody realized, though, that this is a sexual sadist until 6 years
Well, they
after
did
he's
when
been
the
doing
kids
it.
didn't come home. About an hour passed, and now But I'm just going to tell you the whole time, and you'll see in some of his letters, even at the time of bouncing the 10-year-old on his lap, he actually achieved
Oh, no. Oh, no.
ejaculation.
Oh, no.
Just there.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh.
He achieved ejaculation just from that instance. So you know where this is going.
And they know that, like the family knew that?
No, they would never. How they didn't know he just.
How do we know that?
Because he says this in the letters.
Okay, later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, just listen.
Clarifying. Okay.
Listen, all right, let me just listen. After about an hour bouncing Gracie on his lap.
Can you stop that? That's like, it's just disturbing.
Yeah, I agree.
He says, I really came here, guys, and he's talking to Edward and his friend, to tell you that I can't take you to the farm. And I'm sorry, I know I did this twice, but I just received a letter from my sister. She's throwing a birthday party. So my niece, is what he's saying, my niece is having a birthday party. So I'm sorry I can't take you. And so he gets up and he starts towards the door. No harm, no foul. All we did was jerk off, right? However, he just gets a thought. A thought comes into his head and he turns around. Hey, the kids at the party will actually be Gracie's age. They're about 10 years old, 11 years old, girls running around. You know, if your mommy and daddy let you, you can come along to the birthday party with me.
Oh, no.
So that's bringing up your question earlier, because he does see those two 18-year-olds and is like, even my bloodlust ain't going to get those. But then Gracie walks in and he has completely changed everything. So my niece...
So he changes what his story is.
My niece, yeah. And he comes up with it real quick. He's been doing this for many years. He says, my niece is having a birthday party. If you want to come, if your mommy and daddy are okay with it, you know, you can come. There'll be cake. There'll be candy. There'll be balloons. There'll be a clown.
Stop.
It'll just be fun. The family obviously are not okay with the 10-year-old daughter leaving. So he says, if it's okay with your mommy and daddy, you can come to the party. And this is what the parents said.
Fuck no. Just kidding. Mrs. Budd hesitated for a moment, but her husband cleared his throat and said, let the poor kid go. She's always cooped up here in this dungeon. She doesn't see much good times.
Now,
I bet he regrets saying that.
Oh, yeah. Because when this guy gets caught, a lot of the defense, the attorney would say, hey, whose fault is it? Because he got tried for this specific murder. So it's whose fault is it? Is it the parents' fault for willingly let a 10-year-old go?
It's the person who murdered
I know.
the person.
I'm just saying. Okay. If this is the photo you're looking at right now is of Gracie Budd. This is her outfit. This was in the newspapers. Height 4 feet, last seen wearing white felt hat and blue streamer in back, hair dark, straight bobbed, eyes blue, complexion sallow, physical condition anemic, last seen wearing pink rose here, and it has an arrow. Last seen wearing gray overcoat with fur collar and cuffs and down front of coat. Last seen carrying brown pocketbook. Last seen wearing white silk dress. Last seen wearing white socks. Last seen wearing white shoes. Age 10 years. Weight 60 pounds. She is the victim. And the mother and the father both allow her to go. They watch the daughter and the old man as they walk out and disappear forever. They will never, ever see Gracie again, at least with flesh attached to her body.
Oh my gosh.
They will only see her bones and her skull presented in a trial of this man several years later.
I can't even imagine what that's like.
And I do want to say right quick that they did ask the old man, Frank Howard, where the party was. And immediately he spouted off, it's at 137th Street and Columbus Avenue. Now, we would go there on Google Earth, but that address has never existed. It only goes up to 110th Street. 137th Street was completely fake.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever heard of that street. And I didn't know New York was that big.
So little Gracie was supposed to be home at 9 p.m. that night. So imagine her not, and the parents going to try to find 137th and realizing it only goes up to 110th. That's when they know things are dire.
But also, I mean, this is in the 20s that this is happening, so this is obviously not going to help now. But like, how long were they residents of New York? Why didn't they know that 137th Street didn't exist?
Because they never go up there. But they're poor. He goes to work and comes home. That's what poor people do with 4 kids. They're not going out to eat. They're not on the strip. He didn't know because he's never been there. He lives at home and in his factory during the day. Factory, home. Factory, home. Factory, home. Never going anywhere but Sunday church, which was free. In fact, Gracie, that's her Sunday best right there. So that's the reason he doesn't know, because they don't even own a car. Like, they're that poor. I mean, they're doing better than a lot of other Americans, but they're still pretty low at the barrel.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, well, after hearing this, if I ever have children and someone wants to take my kids somewhere, number one, I have to know you. Number two, you have to give me some sort of point of reference, like 137th Street in Columbus. What's near there? And I have to be able to picture it. Well, now I can Google it, but back then you couldn't Google. But I feel like why didn't... I don't know. I don't know.
All right, let's map out the route they took. They were supposed to go down a few blocks, a couple miles at best, but they ended up getting on a train. He stops at a newsstand, and he was actually at the newsstand before. He left a canvas-wrapped bundle at the newsstand. You remember the potted cheese and the berries?
Yeah.
He walks over to... This is before he goes into the home. He walks over to the newsstand carrying the berries and the cheese and also a canvas-wrapped bag, kind of like, you roll up tools with or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he buys a newspaper, which he tossed. But the newsman, the newspaper seller, the vendor, is like, you need some help with that, Pops? And the old man is acting frail and incapable, using that as a ruse. Well, if you don't mind, Sonny, could I just leave this bag here with you? And I'm just going to go right over here to talk to my family and then come back and I'll get this bag. Sure, Pop, sure. I don't want you to stress yourself out. Just leave it here. So anyway, Gracie and Frank Howard go back to the newsstand, and he retrieves the bag, the canvas bag, which he calls, quote, the implements of hell, end quote. Now, there were 3 things in that bag. You want to guess what they were?
An ice pick, a hammer, and a knife.
Inside the canvas bag of implements of hell, as he called them, was 1 butcher's knife, 1 meat cleaver, and 1 small handsaw.
I got 1 right.
Now
I said knife.
Now he's walking with Gracie by the hand, right? They're holding hands, and if you see him on the street, which many people did, and they ended up years later coming to testify.
They probably just thought that it was his or her grandfather.
There you go. Just, and she's not crying and like, help. She's going to a birthday party. Giddy. She's about to eat cake.
Yeah, who doesn't love cake?
At the ticket booth, and this should have been alerting right here. They go to the Putnam Division of New York Central Railroad, and he buys a round ticket to Westchester Community of Worthington. That's where they're going. So that
Westchester is farther away than like 110th Street or 137th Street. That's That's like hours away.
Yeah, it's hours away. He buys a round ticket for him and a one-way ticket for her.
Oh no, which
is really fucked.
Yeah.
Now she probably is thinking, I don't know we're going to be on a train, but he does let her sit at the window so she can see the outside. And every once in a while, he looks over and pats her knee. You're going to have so much fun, Gracie. Little did she know she was actually on her way to her death. They get off the train. They both get off the train in Westchester, and he is so distracted in his bloodlust that he forgets the canvas bag. He leaves it on the train, so that's good, right?
I mean, yes,
Probably
but
not.
I mean, it's okay, but now I'm afraid of how she's going to suffer her end.
Well, if you want to read this, Nicole.
When they disembarked at Worthington Station, Fish seemed slightly distracted. As they stepped onto the platform, Grace tugged at his sleeve. "You forgot your package," she exclaimed. Turning on her heels, she dodged back into the car. Seconds later, she reappeared with red and white striped parcel cradled in her arms. Fish took it from her without a word.
Okay, well, now you know who it is, right? Albert Fish.
Oh, I have heard that name before.
Okay, so what is this saying? He leaves his bag on the train. She rushes back in, grabs the canvas bag. "Hey, you forgot your stuff."
She trusts him.
Brings the bag, the implements of hell, off the train and gives it to him. They turn left at Mountain Road and they go down to a very small cottage. And let me show you the cottage here. And I'll put these photos on talkmurder.com. But this is where they're going down. So there's nothing down here, right?
No.
Nothing. It's just empty, bare, nothing. This is the cottage. It was an abandoned cottage.
That's a nice looking house. That would probably go for like 400,000 at least today.
It's actually was initially thought to be the quote ogre's lair.
Shrek, the Shrek killer.
Where he thought, or where the newsmen and the police thought he would take all of his victims, but the ogre's lair turned out to be somewhere else. But this is in Wisteria. So Albert Fish is known as the werewolf of Wisteria, among many other names, including the Gray Man and stuff like that. Let's read what he says.
That means you.
Yeah, I was like, damn it.
Let's read the letter that he sent to the family. Now, the letter he sent, because this is very disturbing. And the next episode is going to be extremely, it's going to be like Pee-wee plus the Vampire of Sacramento type of stuff. Richard Trenton Chase. So that's in the next episode. But on November 11th, 1934, the Budd family. Now, this is 6 years later. 6 years. They have arrested 100 people. And no one has panned out. At this point, the mother has not lost interest, but she has other kids too. She is just, it ruined the whole family. They had gotten they got hundreds of letters. A lot of crackpot letters saying, I got her. She's in my basement, but and a lot of letters were like, we took her, but we're a nice family. We're raising her nice. So, and this happens today. Families get all kinds of shit like that. But out of the hundreds of letters that they got, they knew immediately that this was the one. And this letter came on November 11th, 1934. And I'll let you read this, Nicole.
My dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he had two others, went ashore, and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was a great famine in China. Meat of any kind was $1 to $3 per pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all children under 12 were sold to butchers to be cut up and sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or girl under 14 was not safe in the street. You could go in any shop and ask for steak, chops, or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out and just what you wanted cut from it. A boy or girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body, and sold as a veal cutlet, brought the highest price. John stayed there so long, he acquired the taste for human flesh. On his return to New York, he stole two boys, one 7, one 11, took them to his home, stripped them naked, tied them in a closet, then burned everything they had on. Several times every day and night, he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass and, of course, the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass, boiled, broiled, fried, stewed. The little boy was next, went the same way. At that time, I was living at 409 East 100th Street, near rear right side. He told me so often how good human flesh was, I made up my mind to taste it. On Sunday, June 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street. Brought you pot cheese and strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat on my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to go eat her on the pretense of taking her to a party. You said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs and stripped all my clothes off. I knew if I did not, I would get her blood on them. When all was ready, I went to the window and called her. Then I hid in the closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run downstairs. I grabbed her and she said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take her meat to my rooms, cook it, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her, though I could have, had I wished. She died a virgin.
And that last part is actually not true. He recants that he raped her twice. And that is the stripped down, mild version of the
That's how he ends it?
Of the true story. Which we'll talk about later in the next episode, but it's 300 times worse than what his initial letter said.
It's 300 times worse.
Yeah, it's bad. It's got sacrificial type qualities to it.
I didn't realize that Albert Fish was a cannibal, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I just, the only thing I knew about Albert Fish was stuff about, like, him sticking needles in himself. Right? Wasn't that something he did?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
That's about all I knew.
So
I did not realize.
About that? Did you know about the needles? All right. Albert Fish. And
I'm shocked you know more about this killer than I know about this killer.
I'll talk about this on the next episode, but when Albert Fish was put to death in the electric chair, he actually had, I think it was 29 sewing needles embedded
in his balls.
No. They would, and I'll get to this next time, but they were all put in that area we call it the gooch or the taint. I think it's called something else, like the perineum or whatever.
That's not the official term. I don't believe doctors call it the
they
gooch.
They were all shoved in that one spot, but naturally they worked themselves up through his body. And there were about, I think, 29 needles. I'll get the exact ones next episode. But when he was fried in the electric chair, the spectators noticed the blue sparks of the sewing needles being ignited all through his body. And they were embedded all the way in his abdomen in different places because they would work their ways up through the organs. And he would be in constant pain, which he enjoyed.
Oh, a
from those needles. So anyway, actually, Jen, I want you to read one more thing.
Oh God, you know it's bad if he's asking Jen to read it.
So we'll end on this, but Albert Fish was a letter writer of the highest quality.
I don't like that he uses the word ass. Like that bothers me.
That does bother me because he's talking about children.
Yeah.
Now, he would write hundreds of letters to random people of the most obscene, and this is one of the mildest letters, but this is kind of what we're going to get into next episode. Plus, we're going to actually record a lot of these letters, the ones that we're not going to put in the episode, on the Patreon, so you can see. And Jen's going to read all the letters. We'll do that next time. But if you want to read this.
I wish you could see me now, Fish wrote in a typical passage. I'm sitting in a chair, naked. The pain is across my back, just over my behind. When you strip me naked, you will see a most perfect form. Yours, sweet honey of my heart. I can taste your sweet piss, your sweet shit. What?
It looks like this. Jen, it looks like this.
It looks like it's Red Bull vodka.
This is sweet piss.
Very dehydrated.
I know.
I'm not surprised, but like, I just don't know.
I am, because piss is not sweet. It's very tangy.
So is he actually drinking pee and eating?
Yeah,
poo?
there's words for that. One of them is
R. Kelly?
Whoa, I'm having deja vu. I swear I'm having deja vu.
I know we've talked about R. Kelly.
No, but like
before,
this exact moment. Okay.
no. There's terms that I was going to go over. Like there's a term for eating shit and drinking piss, and I'll talk about this next episode. But when the psychiatrist finally gave, the courts his diagnosis, they put him down for so many perversions. Everyone that was in the DSM, every single one, plus invented ones just for him. That's how bad this guy is.
I didn't know that was a thing, though. I mean, kind of.
Well, you haven't met Albert Fish.
Pee fetish in some way, shape, or form, aka R. Kelly, but that I don't think he was necessarily drinking anyone's pee. He was just peeing on people.
All right, go ahead and finish this. You're not getting out of it that easy.
You must pee in a glass, and I shall drink every drop of it as you watch me.
Ugh.
How does people he's writing this to someone?
Yeah.
I just don't I don't even really use the word pee.
There are hundreds of letters
John
like this.
uses the word pee.
I know John does. I was wondering if he wrote this.
I don't hyphenate it like that, though.
Tell me when you want to do too. I will take you.
Ew.
That's doo-doo.
Yes.
Right, I guess.
Doo-doo.
We got
I didn't realize they were using that term
back then.
Yes,
I agree.
I will take you over my knees, pull up your clothes, take down your drawers, and hold my mouth to your sweet honey fat ass and eat your sweet peanut butter as it comes out fresh and hot. That is how they do it in Hollywood.
Fresh and hot peanut butter. Get your fresh and hot peanut butter.
The only thing that I can think of is the Amy Schumer Milk Lemonade video. And if you have not seen that, I mean, I know that Milk Lemonade is like, Milk Lemonade around the corner fudge is made.
Oh.
But she does this whole song with Amber Rose and what's that rapper's name? I don't know. It's comical, but that's the only thing I can think of when I'm reading this.
That was the censored version. That is nothing.
Oh my God.
I have a feeling I'll be doing a lot more reading next episode.
Yeah, we got to do the next part on Saturday.
It's fucking it will fucking it's the most disturbing story I have ever fucking seen.
Yes, this will be a Saturday story and I will be intoxicated.
But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Be sure to go to talkmore.com. And if you want to become a supporter and support us, we have some exclusive content on there. Plus, you can talk to us guys and request stories and shots and whatnot. And you can do that by going to talkmore.com/join and become a member, a Talco Supremo. And that is, if you guys don't have anything else, that's all I got. My name is John. And until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.